Hello everyone. In this video I'll be talking about Kubernetes. Try to wrap it up in 10 minutes here. Um First of all, Kubernetes majorly in simple terms is a container orchestration tool. So what that would mean in, let me say, more simpler terms is a tool that helps you to manage application in the contained environments like that. On their website here. So if you can see from here, the Kubernetes is also known as K8. So people often call it K8. It's an open source system for automating deployment, scaling, and managing of containerized applications, right? I believe well, everybody would understand what this part is. So when they talk of automating deployment and scaling, right? So you want to be able to scale your applications automatically and deploy them like in a seamless way, right? Then the part of managing containerized applications, right? That's one part some people might not know too much about, right? So when we talk about containerized applications, also I'll try to keep this in simple terms as much as possible. So yeah, containerized applications are applications that like have their own environments, irrespective of the host environment. They are kept in a contained environment, just like the name implies, right? So there are a couple of containerization technologies, and the most popular one, which I'll be using as a reference in this case, is Docker. Right? Docker is also open source. So Docker is a containerization technology that helps you to build and share containers, right? So basically, if we're talking in terms of Docker specifically, we talk about um, images, container images. It helps to build it helps to build images. Then you run your images as containers, right? So that's basically what Kubernetes does. So Kubernetes is a container orchestration open source project, right? Yeah. So the major takeaway from Kubernetes here is like the I think the favorite part to me, right, is self-healing, which would imply that when your applications fail to restart, or maybe when you have a runtime bug that kills your process, like it automatically restarts it and like it replaces it like almost instantaneously, right? That's like probably my favorite uh yeah, my favorite thing about Kubernetes, right? The self-healing, right? Because in a typical environment, you have to have tools that actively tell you when your system is down. So you manually have to go in and just heal it by yourself by restarting the process, right? Also in terms of service discovery and load balancing, that's also a very big key takeaway. Talking about service discovery, right? Imagine you have millions of, let me just use in this case, you have like about 20 containers running in your, let me say 20 applications running in your server, right? So how do you assign and discover like all of these services are actively running? Right. In a contained environment, right, you would want them to be isolated in a network, right? But with Kubernetes, you can automatically discover them by the pod assigned IP from Kubernetes, right? And also the other key part here is load balancing, right? You can manage a bulk like load of workload, right? So mostly you notice people that use Kubernetes are like big on enterprise, like banks mostly, because the most use cases I've seen for Kubernetes in this days is banks, right? So because they handle a lot of workload, so they always need their infrastructure to scale on demand, right? Imagine on maybe on New Year or Christmas or something like that. That's usually a period where people have high demands to make transactions and whatnot. Yeah. So the system needs to be able to scale up to accommodate that need, and maybe when that period of high demand is fading out, then they can um, go back to their usual operation operational infrastructure like configuration and all, right? So Kubernetes in one word is basically the infrastructure you do actually think you need in some cases, right? So in most cases, or let me say in a couple of cases, yeah, people actually tend to use Kubernetes as a people actually use Kubernetes as a data center in its own, because usually when you have like an infrastructure, you always want to make sure you can deploy applications, you can manage storage, you can store secrets, that's environments, variables, and all your configuration and all, right? And you want to make sure in some cases like you can execute multiple things at a time, like some services you want to execute them simultaneously and all. And also you want to do rollbacks and rollout like automatically, like if your version 1 is working fully stable and for some reason you release version 2 and everything breaks, then you can just do a quick rollback and go back to your version 1 in minutes, right? So also another key thing here is storage orchestration, right? If you're using a traditional infrastructure, you can't exactly manage your storage, um let me say, uh in the most efficient way you would want, right? You can't orchestrate it properly. But with Kubernetes, you can easily mount storage from different places. Like it doesn't matter where the storage is from. I'm sure it would be mountable. Like it would be something you can extend with your Kubernetes cluster, right? So that's something you can definitely do. So also the scaling part of Kubernetes, which is actually quite fun as well, is very very cool, right? So I think you can't exactly get an oversight of Kubernetes, right? Without really doing Kubernetes. So I will just show you a quick code sample I have uh somewhere here. Okay, so I have a repo for Kubernetes somewhere. So why that puts up, right? So if some people are curious, right? The name Kubernetes originated from a Greek word actually, which means yeah, to navigate. Like if you notice, the logo of Kubernetes is somewhat like a sailor's navigation wheel, something like that, right? So it typically means a steerman, navigator, or a guide. So that's typically what Kubernetes is. Kubernetes is like a captain, a sailor that manages like plenty other ships actually. So yeah, that's Kubernetes. So let me get my uh here is this repo. Yes, this is it. Okay, it's deployment. So I have a 1 hour video on Kubernetes. I'll probably leave a link somewhere for everyone to check it out. So yeah. So the most basic deployment you can have with Kubernetes is what I'm about to show you. So I have my Docker file here. I have it containerized in an Express application here. So to check the Kubernetes deployment, I come here. Although the way I structured my file is slightly different, so I'm going to zoom my screen because I know it's kind of tiny here. Yeah, so this is why I know Kubernetes might pose to be a very complicated tool to use initially, right? But then it's not too complicated like per se. So yeah, let me try to find my container. Okay, anyways, so I have this container running on Docker Hub, right? I have the container running on I have it pushed rather to repository on Docker Hub, yeah. So basically in this place I specified the kind of my manifest. So what you are seeing here is a Kubernetes manifest. So this is a deployment file. So I specified the kind of deployment. I gave it a name. I specified how many deployment, like how many replicas of my application I want. Like so replicas would mean like how many times do you want your application to be replicated, just so it's it's fault tolerant and you can manage more loads, right? It's always good to have more than two or even one replicas, right? So yeah, these are basically Kubernetes stuff. So basically this is where the real deal comes in, right? where you specify the name of your container, the image name, and the image pool policy, right? This is something you don't need to worry about for now. I'm just trying to show you what the Kubernetes configuration looks like. Yeah. So this is where I specify my memory and CPU limits. It's always important to do this in case of applications that try to, just bust open your application's memory and, mess things around. So yeah, it's always important to set that. And also, I have a service file. So this is where service discovery comes in, right? So I have to put my app up to be discoverable inside the cluster, right? So within my Kubernetes cluster, I just exposed my application to this, uh, with this service rather. So anybody that wants to use my application could just do express.js app and, visit it on port 80 and it'll be fine. So yeah, I hope I'm able to just give you an oversight of what Kubernetes is in this video. So yeah, maybe I'll do a follow-up video or whatnot. So yeah, see you guys on the next one. Cheers.